Finally, after all this time of waiting, we are getting another Nintendo Direct. And it's not just a Direct for a specific game, but it's actually a general Nintendo Direct. Now, I don't know about you guys, but the part that really stuck out to me here is the news about Super Smash Bros. Ultimate coming up. Now, it's hard to say whether this is going to be a fighter or whether we're going to get some other general news related to the game. That said, if I had to guess, it seems like about the right time that we're going to be getting a fighter. And so in today's video, I want to go over some of the most likely candidates in my opinion. If you're anything like me, you didn't suspect Sephiroth last reveal, and so I kind of want to get around that by throwing as many names as possible into the discussion zone. Let me know who you think's going to get into the game, and I'll try to react to it in the comments. Let's get into it. Alright, so right off the bat, something that Sephiroth's reveal taught me is that we should really be looking at pre-existing third-party franchises within Smash and exploring the possibility of another representative coming from that series. To start things off, we have a Sonic rep. Now, I know a couple of these characters are already represented in the game in some form, whether that be an assist trophy or some other kind of representation, but once again, if I've seen anything from speculation, it's that everything is a rule until it isn't. What I mean by that is I think Nintendo is less concerned about sticking to previously established patterns, such as assist trophies or Mii costumes not being upgradable, both of which already have a little bit of doubt cast on them. So I think that it's probably worth it to still explore these options, even if previous patterns suggest that they might not get into the game. So going with that Sonic rep, we've got Tails and Knuckles as two separate characters. Both of these characters are so closely tied to Sonic himself, and I could really see both of them working in the game. Whether Tails can summon his mech suit from Sonic Adventure or just fight as himself, I really could see him doing some great things in the game. Knuckles has been in a few Smash mods before and has always been a ton of fun to play for me. That said, there's still the possibility of villains from Sonic, or in the case of Shadow, anti-heroes. Shadow, I think, is who most people think of when they are trying to come up with a Sonic rep. Either him or Dr. Eggman, who I hear a ton of support for. He's a character who I personally struggle visualizing how they would move and play in the game, but I have no doubt that Sakurai could pull it off. To close off my guesses for a Sonic rep, I would say maybe Metal Sonic or Amy. I don't know, I don't see these guys being particularly likely, but I wouldn't be surprised by a Sonic rep at all. But this brings us to a Mega Man rep. Now, Mega Man got into the game in Super Smash Bros. 4, and while I would suspect him less than a Sonic rep, I could still see another Mega Man rep getting into the game. Some likely candidates that come to mind are Mega Man X, Roll, Proto Man, or Zero. Another third-party franchise previously established in the game is Metal Gear. Now, out of the three franchises that I've talked about so far, Metal Gear is probably the one I have the most trouble coming up with another rep for. I suppose that I could see Raiden, as he was the focus of several of his own games, or maybe Ocelot? I don't know, I don't particularly see another Metal Gear rep getting into the game. But let's talk about a few of the more commonly speculated characters, because I think that there are some grounds for speculation here. First off is Crash Bandicoot, who personally is one of my most predicted characters. He's super influential in gaming, I don't see much working against him, his sales are insane, he really just makes a lot of sense to me. If he doesn't get in now, I really do believe that he has a good chance of getting in later DLC. Some people also speculate Crash Bandicoot's sister series, Spyro the Dragon. While I could see Spyro, he just seems less likely than Crash Bandicoot to me, with slightly underperforming sales and slightly less influence on gaming as a whole when compared to Crash Bandicoot. If you want to see a full breakdown of Crash Bandicoot and his chances, I'm going to put a video in the top right hand corner right now. That said, if Crash does get into the game, I think it's definitely going to be a Donkey Kong cabin reveal like we saw with King K. Rool or Banjo-Kazooie. Now, some other commonly speculated characters that I see having a decent chance are Sora and Dante. Both of whom seemingly have stuff that work against them, but in my opinion, they don't really stand up when put under scrutiny. Once again, I'm going to link those in the top right hand corner if you want to see a full breakdown of both of those characters. But in my opinion, they both have about a 6 out of 10 or slightly higher. So let's talk about some characters who maybe aren't so commonly speculated, but I still think have a really decent chance of getting into the game. Resident Evil has 107 million sales, making it the 21st best-selling game of all time. And whether we get a rep like Jill or Leon, I really think that people don't talk about a Resident Evil representative enough. Another series that I think isn't talked about enough in Smash speculation is a Tails rep. Whether this be Lloyd or Yuri, I really think that people sleep on the chances of this game. It has over 20 million sales, it's incredibly popular in Japan, and I wouldn't be surprised at all if we saw a rep coming from this game. Another possibility that would make sense to me is getting a crossover from another popular fighting game. The two most popular fighting games that we don't yet have represented in Smash are Tekken and Mortal Kombat. Now, Mortal Kombat is a tricky situation. It's unclear if Nintendo would want to work with a game that has such a stigma of violence around it, but we've also seen the people behind Mortal Kombat work with companies like DC Comics to create something that's more toned down for a general audience. Now, Tekken has already seen some representative in this DLC wave with Heihachi coming as a Mii costume, which, if you ask me, makes the argument for Jin Kazama from Tekken a little bit stronger and weaker at the same time. It would be stronger in the sense that we can narrow it down to probably being either Jin or Heihachi, and with Heihachi already being added as a Mii costume, I think that Jin would make a lot of sense. That said, if they were going to add Jin into Smash, why would they have Heihachi as a DLC Mii costume with an earlier fighter? I don't think that this is a 100% disconfirm, but it is a little bit weird to me, and it does shed some doubt on the argument. Two other games that I think we ought to talk about are Soul Calibur and Guilty Gear, both of which are popular fighting games. Soul Bad Guy is the protagonist of Guilty Gear, and once again I think would make a lot of sense, and from Soul Calibur we could have a representative like Nightmare or Siegfried. Now I want to talk about some first-party representatives, because there are a couple that I think we really should be considering, some of which are commonly speculated, and some of which really aren't. Let's start with the more popular ones. We've got Rex from Xenoblade Chronicles 2. A lot of people speculate that Rex is going to get into the game because ARMS, the game that Min Min comes from, was released right around the same time as Xenoblade Chronicles 2. And because Min Min was put in the game, a lot of people assumed that they just didn't have time to get some of their more prominent new first-party characters into the game, like Min Min or Rex. I think it is worth noting that Rex came as a DLC Mii costume, and while I don't think that this outright disconfirms him, I do think that it's something worth considering. Two other popularly speculated characters are Ryu Hayabusa from Ninja Gaiden and some new Pokemon rep. And between these two, I would probably guess a new Pokemon rep before Ryu Hayabusa, although neither would really surprise me. If we do get a Pokemon rep, I would love to see a new Pokemon trainer, someone like Giovanni or just an alternate Pokemon trainer with different Pokemon from the new generations. That said, there are two first-party characters that represent two of Nintendo's best-selling series, but they're almost never talked about. The first of which would be the Big Brain Professor, which I know sounds like a really weird pick, but Sakurai has a penchant for getting weird picks. Secondly, we have Excite Biker. Now, I was surprised at just how well Excite sold. Excite is one of Nintendo's best-selling series of all time, and it would make a lot of sense to me to have inclusion from that game in here. We do know that Sakurai was going to include Excite Biker into Melee, but found incorporating his movement a bit too hard. So we'll have to see with those. To close off the video, I want to talk about some more off-the-wall reps that no one really talks about, but going through the list of best-selling games of all time, I want to throw them into the conversation. Now, a few of these might seem disconfirmed for a few different reasons, but I really want to get your thoughts on which ones you think could stand a decent chance. First off, we have a representative from the LEGO games. The LEGO games are huge, one of the best-selling series of all time. And while they're typically made up of LEGO versions of other popular franchises, there are some LEGO games with an original story that feature original LEGO characters, such as LEGO City Undercover. Another character people don't talk about is Frogger as a retro rep. Frogger, once again, is incredibly popular, his series sold incredibly, and I could see him getting into the game, I guess. He has had a few 3D platformers, which is weird to say the least, but I mean, they do exist. Dig Dug is also another representative that would fit into this umbrella. Going back to these off-the-wall picks, I could see Lara Croft or Nathan Drake, both of which aren't super uncommon to speculate about, but I feel like they're really not in the limelight. We could also potentially get a Just Dance avatar, kind of like we got Wii Fit Trainer. That would surprise me, as I feel like the popularity of that series has gone down a bit recently, but who knows. Continuing on, a Dragonborn from Skyrim is always a solid guess, and I don't hear nearly anyone talking about Ratchet & Clank, which once again is one of the top 100 best-selling franchises of all time, along with Rayman. Now, the only commonly speculated characters that I don't see getting into the game are Doomguy and Master Chief. If you want to know my rationale for both of those, once again, I am putting my full playlist in the top right-hand corner with final analysis character breakdowns on many of these characters that I talked about here. If you like these reps or heard ones that you thought were interesting, go ahead and hit that like button. It's really cool to me to see those likes pile up. Let me know which character you think is going to get into the game, and until next time, stay smashing.